Views expressed on this program are those of the host, guest, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Karmic Path with your hosts, Tina Irwin and Laura Van Tyne. Join us as we dive into the normal and the paranormal to break through the darkness and to help you realize how karma, spiritual law, and psychic ability all combine to open the doors of understanding. This is the place where we build the karmic connections between science, psychology, and spirituality. But can we change our karmic path? Can we help someone else's karma? Stay tuned and join us for an opportunity to look at life and spirituality from a down-to-earth, no-nonsense, practical perspective. The Karmic Path radio show with Laura and Tina, Better Karma for Better Living, starts now.
Welcome, everyone, to the Karmic Path. I'm Tina Irwin, and I'm here with my trusty cohort, Laura Van Tyne.
Glad to know I'm trustworthy.
Oh, yeah. Today's discussion is all about the karma of having fun. And we know that everyone has a karmic path, whether they're aware of it or not. And along that path, it really is important to have fun along the way. We don't live in a bubble, and sometimes other people's actions and reactions are going to echo out and collide with us. Our passion is to offer you a new way of looking at life so that perhaps you can improve your fun karmic path along the way. And we all have a purpose.
We do have purpose, and a lot of people talk about that. What's my purpose? Why am I here? That kind of stuff. And go ahead, anyways, because you're going to say something.
We all have flaws, and we're sort of a mosaic of the good and the bad experiences that we've had. And it's time to reflect on those on many levels.
You know, the people that we meet in our lives, that we meet for a purpose. And, you know, I met somebody yesterday who was just plain old fun. I thought, oh my God, what perfect timing. Is there a resonance issue here? Synchronicity. So I get a phone call from somebody who knows that I do like hobby beekeeping. And they said, oh, my tenant has this beehive. Do you know of anybody who can do a live removal? And I thought, you know, maybe I could, because I'm looking for another colony. And I thought, well, maybe. And I kind of squeezed it in my day, right? And I thought I could have just called, you know, Bee Man Dan. By the way, if you guys are on Instagram, go follow Bee Man Dan. He has the best bee Instagrams out there. Bee Man Dan. Anyways, but I didn't. So I went there, and it's about a 20-minute drive. It wasn't far. And I meet this woman. Her name is Mrs. Beyer, and we're talking. And it turns out she is from the same teeny tiny area of Michigan that I'm from. And
can't make this up.
I know. So I grew up in Sister Lakes, Michigan, and went to school in Dowagiac, and she's from this neighboring town, Stevensville. And get this, she used to work with my grandmother.
It's a synchronicity issue.
So it was like
a resonance issue,
it was
for sure.
So much, and she's so vibrant, and she was just so she still is. She was. I know we. So anyway, she was so vibrant, and she was just. It was really crazy that she used to work. By the way, I want to know, actually, this is a question for everybody. If you live in that southwestern Michigan part, does Tosi's restaurant still exist? My grandmother used to be like the accounts manager for Tosi's, and Mrs. Beyer used to work in the Bit of Swiss pastry shop, which made the best pastries ever.
Bit of Swiss. And this is Toasties?
Tosi's, Tosi. I'm curious to know if they're there. So if you're on Facebook Live and you're watching this and you know this, shoot me an answer now. I'm really bad at responding on Facebook Live. I always go back and look at things usually after the show. So anyways, it was a lot of fun to meet her. And maybe the purpose of actually meeting her was to have a little hometown connection.
And were you homesick and didn't know it?
I do miss my home. It's so green and lush, and I miss all the people.
And sticky?
Not all the time.
Okay. Sometimes it's cold and frosty.
Yes. So anyways, that was a lot of fun.
All right. One of the other things that we wanted to share is, what do we do for fun? Because we spend a lot of time with dead people. That's why we're the karmic pathologists.
Right. Okay. She wanted to name us that, the Karmic Pathologist, because we deal with dead people. It's like, no.
I didn't really want to name us that, but it just sort of
slipped out.
It slipped out. I just thought, I kind of thought it was hysterical. Anyway, what does your mother do? She's a karmic pathologist. What the hell is that?
Hey, we can make business cards with that.
Yeah, that would just not be too cool. Anyway, so we thought it would be fun to share some of the things that because we deal with a lot of death, and we talk to people way past the worst day of their life. way past.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the never-ending.
But one of the things we do is we do read testimonials. We read everything that comes back in through us, and we get testimonials,
but not from the dead.
Actually, when they do, that means we got a job to do.
Yes.
The other day, I was like getting tapped on my shoulder, and it's like, I just want to enjoy this cup of coffee with my girlfriend. Anyways. We do enjoy reading the testimonials. I think we find that fun, and we find it inspiring, and it helps us to know that, we're doing a good job at our job. And recently I was helping a woman in another state in the Midwest, not too far from Michigan, by the way, with some dead relatives. And all of a sudden we're crossing over the dead relatives, and all of a sudden she stops and she goes, "Oh my God." She goes, "I got to take a picture of this." And she starts snapping her phone camera. And Kat, if you get a chance, if you could put those photos up, that would be awesome. She showed, and if you're not listening via Facebook Live or Transformation Talk Radio or YouTube later, check out our YouTube page, The Karmic Path, or the Facebook page, The Karmic Path, because I'm going to have Kat show these pictures. It's just incredible. That I've never had anybody actually capture anything like this. But as I open up this light bridge to cross these souls over, this bright light shines through this tree. And as soon as it appeared, it disappeared within seconds after everybody had crossed over. It was just absolutely stunning and amazing. And in a non-tangible world that you and I live in, it's kind of nice to get some tangible reassurances, in a sense.
Well, I guess your client was pretty convinced.
Yeah, we both were. I mean, it was absolutely stunning to see that in the third dimension, that physical world we live in. So that was just really cool.
And completely unforgettable.
So, we work with a lot of families, and we work with people with these unusual problems. And we're going to just kind of go over a couple of testimonials that we've had in the past couple of weeks, really, that we just really enjoyed. And then we're going to go on with the chicken story.
Yes. We worked with someone actually about a week ago who had a lot of problems with one of their kids. Had a lot of problems sleeping. They had problems in different parts of the yard, different parts of the house. This young man never felt like he was alone, that there was somebody always watching him. And I mean, this is a really hard, what we do is very difficult to quantify, especially since we don't go to your house and do things. We actually do it through remote viewing, which is so much more efficient, and we can see and do a lot more. And in this particular case, we were able to remove quite a bit of
haunted,
really odd things.
Yeah. So the house was haunted, and we get a message back the next day from the woman that says, her son is sleeping now, and doesn't feel like he's being watched. And
he's finally when he's by himself, he's really by himself. There's nobody sort of diaphanously looking over him.
Yeah. And, we had another one from a woman who says, I started watching you ladies on YouTube, and shortly after my brother passed away from a motorcycle accident. And she says, not only is it lovely to see you live, but, you have no idea how much you've helped me to learn spiritually and eased my grief. Thank you. And with a few heart emojis. And those things mean a lot to us. And it's not an ego thing, but it just means that we're doing the right thing.
We also had someone else take the intuition course. And this woman says, your online courses have changed my life. I'm learning so much from you, how my intuition is my greatest psychic ability and why that's important, and how I can develop my intuition.
Okay. You know what? Okay. I'm going to stop you for a moment.
Okay.
And, yeah. If you go to thekarmicpath.com and you click on the link, the Secret Science of Intuition. That online class is free, and it talks about why intuition is our greatest psychic asset and how you can develop it. It's a free class. And I think that and we decided to make it free because this is a basic right, I think, for every human out there, is to learn how your intuition can help you and how to work with it.
It also gives people an introduction to how we do courses and the amount of information that, we can put in a course, which is pretty significant.
Yeah, we don't give you a lot of fluff, an hour's worth of conversation and 2 minutes of nuggets. The whole thing is content dense. So they're great courses, but we really appreciate that because that's kind of a new course that we haven't even advertised yet. So
that was really great that she said that. We do have we've had some cases where we've had very large multifamily properties that we've cleared. And those properties had been plagued with people having a hard time paying their rent. And some of them were affordable housing properties. And we have had there was varying levels of crime. And then after the properties are cleared, people don't seem to have quite as many problems paying their rent. The crime drops.
In the one property that we worked for affordable housing, we cleared the whole tenant property and their crime rate dropped.
And the number of incidents dropped, which means this is really so much better for everyone.
It really is. So anyways, those are some of the things that we enjoy. And it's almost time for break already.
Yeah, it is. So when we come back, Laura's going to share a really interesting story about the importance of having fun. And it's having fun when times are so tough. You don't know how you're going to make it through each day. And on that note, we'll be right back.
And check out the oillounge.com too, if you get a minute.
And you're listening to the Karmic Path on Transformation Talk Radio. See you soon. Welcome back to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Karmic Path. Is it possible to have fun even when your life seems to be going to hell in a handbasket? While you're on the express train to a really tough day? What we're going to do is I'm going to kind of turn this over to Laura, and she's going to share with you a really tough time in her life and how one moment of astounding fun changed her perspective of that time. Okay, take it away, partner.
Okay, so this is a few years ago, about 15 actually.
It's a few?
A few, yes. It's hard to believe I'm that old where I can talk back 15 years, but it's true.
Yes, there is perspective in that.
There is, isn't there? All right, so when my girls were little, we were having a really tough time with some things.
How little were your girls?
They were, my youngest was a baby and the oldest was 5. So we had 3 kids between 0 and age 5.
You're busy.
We're busy. And, one of my kids' teachers comes up to me one day and says, I need to talk to you. And I'm like,
she's 5. How bad could it be?
Yeah. Right. So, and she pulls me aside and she's very conscientious and she says, I need to speak with you. And I'm like, okay. She goes, I'm not going to name names, but your daughter keeps mentioning to her friends that she keeps talking about daddy's girlfriend. And I don't know what's going on. I know you guys are happily married, but she keeps mentioning daddy's girlfriend. And I started laughing because daddy's girlfriend was actually a chicken. So,
and how did the chicken get this name?
The chicken's name is Red. So we got all these chickens when they were little and they all had names: Red, Whitey, Brownie, Blackie, and Kaka, because we had 2 brown ones. I didn't name the chickens. So anyways, Red the chicken had flown over the fence and my husband rescued her. And when she was like a little baby chicken.
She could fly?
They get startled and they can flutter their wings and then they have no navigational ability whatsoever. And she ended up on the other side of the fence.
Okay.
So my husband goes and gets her and brings her back. And ever since that moment, this chicken has been so imprinted on my husband. She follows him around the yard. He could be, I don't know, using a chainsaw. Actually, no, my husband would never use a chainsaw. Never mind.
Never see him using a chainsaw.
I'd use a chainsaw before my husband. She would follow him around and, this chicken was so attached to my husband that we all started calling him daddy's girlfriend, which may have not have been the best move on my part, but So we're sitting on the patio and Daddy's girlfriend will hop on his lap and he'll start petting her and they'll talk to each other.
So you can imagine she's saying Daddy's girlfriend sits on his lap.
Right. And the teacher's a little alarmed. I've got this, new baby with me. And he's like, what? So anyways, we had a good laugh over that for a long time because this same year was so incredibly difficult. That amount of levity was much needed. And it's just funny how things kind of happen, because what had happened that year, I've got, as I said, 3 kids, 5 and under, and I've got my in-laws who live close by who are 75 and older. So I've got 3 kids under the age of 5 and 2 over the age of 75. And my in-laws' health is declining rapidly. And I'm taking turns taking them to the hospital for emergency things or doctor's visits. I mean, I was managing 2 households. One household had 3 kids and one household had 2. And I'm doing all the shopping and the groceries and the bills and the cleaning and the this and the that. And it was exhausting. And you remember, and I would also have to take them to their doctor's appointments. And I don't know if you remember the old show Cheers, when Norm would walk in, everybody would go, Norm, right? Okay, we'd walk into these doctor's appointments at the doctor's office, and the staff would go, Jackie, because my kid became a mascot. She's barely 2 years old, and she's like this mascot for this office now. They know her that well. That's how often we're there. So it's exhausting. My husband and I are fried. It's to the point where, my husband would spend the night at his parents' house and I would go there in the daytime, and it was just exhausting. And it's 2 days before Christmas. It's 2 days before Christmas, and we have not one Christmas present for the kids. We've got not one thing done. I think we have a tree, but nothing is on it. And we're wiped out. And my husband sits down and we're at the dinner table and we're just like, the kids are in bed and I don't know if they're numb. I don't know if they're clean or I don't know if they're fed. I have no idea at this point, right? And he says, well, what do you want for Christmas?
And you said, I want a night's sleep. Let's see, you get a night's sleep, a week off, or a bath all to myself.
I think I said a new life, but I could be wrong. No, kidding.
Wrong. Oh my gosh.
So I said, I would like to make a family Christmas, a formal family Christmas picture with Daddy's girlfriend. So my husband, who's really patient, he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I think this would be great. And so he said, okay. And so that next day, now we're like, a day and a half before Christmas, I call up what is then a Moto Photo, like a photo developing place. I don't know if you all remember this, but you used to have to get your pictures developed at a place.
Oh my gosh, darling, you're dating yourself.
I know. But we have actually a lot of millennials who listen to this show who might not have any idea. I don't know. So I called the Moto Photo and I made the appointment for us to get our family portrait done. And I asked the guy, I'm like, well, do you take pets? And he's like, oh, of course we take pets. I did not tell him we took chickens or we're bringing a chicken. And so I put the chicken in a crate, and it's like this barred crate. It's like just got
a crate,
and it's not like the plastic covered one. So we're carrying this chicken through the shopping plaza, all dressed up. And we go into the Moto Photo place, and the guy's like, that's a chicken. I'm like, yeah, you said you take pets. And he's like, oh, yep, I guess we do. Okay. So what ends up happening is we get in this place and it's sheer chaos. Okay. The 2-year-old does not want to wear the Santa hat. And Kat, I don't know if you can put the picture up if you've put it up yet, but this was the photo that we ended up taking. The chicken was so curious. She wanted to walk around the camera equipment and she wanted to check things out. The 2-year-old wouldn't wear the hat. And it was just like, in the photo, I'm actually leaning in because I'm holding on to the 2-year-old to make sure she stands in place.
You look like you're hiding.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm actually grabbing the kid. And so anyways, what happened is we have this amazing family portrait, which looks ridiculous. But for us, it changed our family. When our kids, and this is kind of the point of this, is that when our kids were little, life was so hard. I mean, I'm literally zipping down the road for emergency after emergency, and our adrenal glands are shot. But because of that photo, and if you look at that photo is so worn out because they would hold that picture. I probably should have had more copies made. They don't look at it as a difficult time. They look at it as a fun memory we had with this beloved pet chicken. They don't think of the health emergencies. They don't think of the issues that we've been having. They don't think of their grandparents' death. And it became like almost a turning point in our family. No matter how dark things get, no matter how difficult things can be, if you can kind of have a laughable moment, psychologically, it helps us so much. And 15 years later, my oldest daughter's friend, who is an amazing photographer, Michelle, says, "Hey, I want to recreate that same photo now." And so she came over. We did not go to a formal studio this time.
We have technology that can take care of that.
We have technology now. And she recreated that picture. And I don't know if that's up yet, Kat, but this is what it looked like now. And so the point of this is fun is great, but sometimes it can elude us in those dark days. I mean, these were really difficult days. And my mother-in-law's, health was just.
So at what point after that photograph did they die?
Within a couple months.
Okay. And so they died the next year.
They died the next year. Yeah.
And then when did your dad die?
My dad died that same year. So my kids lost 3 grandparents in the span of under 3 years.
That's a lot of death.
And they were little, right? So they never really got to have that grandparent experience. And it's kind of sad in a way, but they don't lament that because they don't know what they've missed out on.
So when you had this second photograph done 15 years later and everybody got to get together, what was the name of the chicken you used?
Oh, that was Captain.
Okay, it wasn't Troublemaker?
No, Troublemaker. She would not let anyone catch her.
Okay.
Captain is the boss. And if you go out in the backyard today and Captain squats down and she wants you to pet her. And once she gets a few pets, she's good. So I almost wonder, and I don't know if this is possible, is Captain the reincarnation of Red 15 years later? I have no idea, but these chickens' personalities are so much alike.
That is just a little bit scary.
Yeah. So who knows? But
okay, so you have this new photograph with the family with chickens. And did your girls share that with all their friends?
Oh my gosh. It was like they used this photo of us for every school family project and everything. And it went out to like all these different people.
So the ripple effect of the chicken picture just kept going and bringing them smiles.
People
and fun.
Still, I actually posted it for Father's Day because I posted the family photo for Father's Day just because it's so iconic within our little family community. And I dedicated it to my husband. I said, to the bestest pretty princess player on the planet.
And why was he pretty princess player?
He was ruthless. I'll talk about that when we get back because I know we've got a break here in a minute. And you are listening to the Karmic Path and Transformation Talk Radio. Check out the Oil Lounge. They've got a ton of useful information out there. It's theoillounge.com. And we will be right back. Welcome back to the Karmic Path. We're talking about fun and the karma of having fun. And I just shared a really personal story about the traumas and dramas of my life way back when, and how one simple moment kind of changed how we were dealing with those traumas and dramas. And real quick, I remember I brought my youngest to a nursing home to go visit with her little friend. I'm going to call him Larry. And they had the world's biggest toddler argument.
What age? 2?
They're about 2.5. Yeah, they were 2.5. So, and they were screaming at the top of their lungs in the nursing home. You know what the argument was? They were arguing whether or not the man in the wheelchair was dead or leaping. And at first I was mortified. And then I realized no one here can hear anyways. So anyways, there were a lot of humorous moments in the depths of despair. And I think psychologically it helps when we can do that. And I want to kind of segue this off with parents are our most powerful memory makers, for better or for worse.
And if a parent needs to feel within themselves that it's okay to be silly and to have fun and to play dress up and to, it's not just read to your kids because that's a fun time, but that's a quiet time. But when you actually can get on your hands and knees, or you're in the kitchen and you're cooking, and some of my happiest times with, and they doesn't sound like a great deal of fun, but with my oldest son was watching him fix cars. I know that sounds really funny. God, this kid's a good mechanic. And he would be changing a water pump in a Chevy Astro van, something he'd never done before. And it was our primary vehicle. And if he screwed it up, then we would have no car. But, no guts, no glory. So I'm sitting there and I'm giving him moral support, and he's talking and chatting.
You learn a lot too, right?
I know more about, I am Marissa Tomei, let me tell you. And my cousin Vinny, I know more about cars than ever imagined. It's a little bit scary. And I think the point of that was, those to me are really precious times. Or when I'm in the kitchen with my daughter and we're cooking up a storm and we're making all kinds of things, and I'm watching her make these things, and some of them don't always turn out well. And
I've got one of those kids right now.
And the problem is there's no learning in perfection.
No.
You have to make the mistakes. You have to go back and analyze it. And sometimes that's a lot of fun to sit down without being critical. Don't be the critical parent. Say, okay, it happens. We've all done these things.
It does. I refused to play Barbies with my girls when they were little, out of principle.
And what was that principle?
It's Barbie. I don't know. So my husband would play Barbies with the girls when he would get home from work. And he had a script. And, this kind of ties into last week's show about the karma of manipulation. He would be playing Barbies with the girls when he'd get home from work. And he would always talk about how Barbie never dated until she got her PhD. And he was planting these seeds along the way. Barbie never kissed a boy until she got married, and she didn't even do that until she got her PhD, and she was 32 years old.
Trying to hold on, was he?
Yeah, a little bit. They remember that, though, right? They absolutely remember that. And they talk about it. Now they can laugh about it. Yeah, haha, Dad.
Yeah. You think about all the funny things that happen. One of the times I was in the Navy for a long time. So it wasn't just one of the times. It wasn't that life. I was only in the Navy one lifetime that I know of. And I have this incredible job and this was in Norfolk, Virginia. And I got all these submarines I'm responsible for, making sure nobody blows up.
Yeah. Your territory was kind of like the Atlantic Ocean or something.
Yeah. It was the Atlantic and Europe and most of the world.
One of the larger oceans? I forget.
It was one of the larger oceans, although the Pacific is actually larger, since we're being technical here.
Okay. All right.
And so I met this friend of mine for lunch. This is a very funny friend. And so I had a really hard day, because after you read the terrorist reports, there's no fun in your life. And you break out in a cold sweat because it's terrifying.
Reading the terrorist reports, was that like a daily ritual you had to
every
do?
day? It was 5-page single space, back and front, highly classified, that would make you not want to sleep at night. It's like, I must work 24 hours a day, head to the, nose to the grindstone, got to protect the fleet. So I'm having lunch with my friend. I have this terrible headache, and we sit down and, we're talking, and my headache's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I said, God, do you have any aspirin? She said, oh, I do. I have some aspirin. I said, well, could you get them out? She said, oh, okay. So she gets out the aspirin. I'm sitting there and I'm watching her. She takes her time. She works and works. She gets out the aspirin, and then she takes the aspirin. And she, drinks it with the glass. I said, do you have a headache? No. Why did you take aspirin? Oh my God, I took aspirin. She said, I don't want them back. I don't want those aspirin back. And she went, oh my God, I took 2 aspirin. I said, well, it's not the end of the world, but did you have a headache? No, I didn't have a headache. And I sitting at this restaurant, I laughed till I almost fell off the chair, and I didn't have a headache anymore. So her taking the aspirin, it was bizarre. So it was, I think about those really, really, really hard days and how difficult those days were.
And,
and I just remember something funny at that moment. It was pure slapstick. I swear to God.
And you remember that moment, that slapstick humor, more than the details of that terrorist report you read that day.
Oh no, I absolutely remember that terrorist report. It was really bad.
God.
It's as if, oh my God, my husband's on those ships, and my friends' husbands are on those ships, and that some of the men I've worked for that I highly admire are on those ships. So they were tough days. So I think that when we're looking at fun, what constitutes fun, or how do you lift the humor of a situation?
Well, part of it is being in the moment and being mindful of the moment, because we can get so focused in on, terrorist reports or whatever our terror report is
for the day. It could be your teenagers. You never know. It could be your neighbor.
Yeah. So focusing in on those things, but the ability to stop and take a breath, be mindful of where you're at, maybe shift your focus, I think is so helpful.
There's a very interesting element here. And there was a guy who had cancer. There's lots of guys that have cancer.
Just one?
But this particular individual was convinced that if he could laugh enough, he could release enough endorphins that he could shift the cancer cells in his body and give his own immune system a fighting chance. I mean, talk about the karma of having fun. And he would watch slapstick humor. He would have friends come over and tell him jokes. And people started to come over. And the problem was people didn't want to come over because it's depressing, right? You have cancer and it's really droll and it's sad
and it's contagious.
Oh, it could. Well,
it's not contagious, but oh my gosh.
People don't want to go because they don't know what to say to you.
Right.
And so he would invite people over so that they could not just cheer him up, but share in humor. And the more humor he had, the better he felt, because he didn't necessarily feel that allopathic medicine was the way to go. He felt that he had to heal something on the inside of himself that was sad and was eating him alive. And he decided that if he could be in the moment of his humor, that he could allow this humor to lift him up to be in a better place, and maybe something inside of him would heal. I think that's a really, really important thing.
It's an important concept, because a lot of our illnesses represent a metaphor in our life.
And if there was something eating at him, and he was looking at all this humor, maybe he wasn't even sure what was hurting him from the inside out. And we certainly see that a lot.
Well, if we look at
with any illness,
a shoulder injury, what burden are you shouldering?
Or it could be your purse,
Yeah, it could be your purse.
Could be your purse.
Your back and your back hurts or something.
Usually backaches have to do with your financial issues,
lower back financial issues. Maybe a knee injury is, moving forward, or a foot injury or something. So if there is something going on in your life and you have, some kind of ailment, kind of look for the metaphor. And we've mentioned the Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life book. It kind of gives a guide to that kind of stuff. And it's just helpful information. So when we can look at whatever is ailing us or bothering us, it can give us a perspective that we may not have ever thought of, and it can release that energy, because everything is energy.
And the energy of laughter changes all kinds of things chemically in the body. And when you're depressed, the world looks gray. And when you're feeling that you can laugh, even if it's a tough situation and somebody makes you laugh, or you're feeling really sad, or you've suffered a grief. I mean, it seems to be a lot of grief right now, and it seems inappropriate to laugh. Or let's say that someone has had a death in the family and they're just grieving. You feel like you can't have fun. You can't smile. That to go to a movie and laugh out loud is somehow not respecting and honoring that moment of that you should be grieving. And living with a lot of should causes you to go down a darker spiral. grief isn't going to take a vacation just because you watched a funny movie or you allowed yourself to escape and feel something good inside of yourself, or you sat down with a child and you just cuddled for a while and watched a Disney movie, or you watched something. Of course, watching Disney movies is a lot of grief because everybody's got either
Everybody's
an
got an
orphan
issue.
or they lost their parents or their mom or their dad died or they're
On that happy
walking on the
note,
streets.
On that happy note, we're going to take a break. You are listening to the Karmic Path on Transformation Talk Radio, and we will be back shortly. Welcome back to the Karmic Path. I wanted to know what you're thinking. I know I'm psychic, but for some reason I can't get in your mind because you're sitting here giggling for the past few seconds.
I was just thinking about the things I used to say to my husband when he came home from sea. And one of the things I was remembering was that I was a little, even though I'm in the Navy and I can be pretty salty. I was a little naive sometimes. And so Troy came back from sea a couple of times and someone said, well, what's he been working on? And I said, well, he's been doing construction projects. And I pulled out a tape measure and I said, yep, here's the measure of a man. And Troy would roll over on the floor in embarrassment. And the whole room couldn't breathe. They laughed so hard. And I said, what? What did I do wrong?
Kat, can people understand what she's saying? Can people understand what she's saying, Kat?
I'm sure some people can.
Okay.
So, I said, what? It's the measure of man. He's measuring. And Charlie and one of the guys said, Lieutenant, you have got to take your wife aside and explain life to her, but not today because God, this is funny.
That's pretty funny.
I mean, I'm 5'1", and in the Navy, I got a lot of jokes about my height,
or lack thereof,
or lack thereof,
okay.
And they'd go, "Oh my gosh, are you the latest in the Barbie doll model for the Navy?" And I go, no, but that's a really cool compliment. Thank you so much. And this one guy just endlessly ribbed me about being so short, but he was bald. And I said, so how do you know when to stop washing your face? I mean, I'm just curious. And he laughed so hard he had to leave the room. And God, he was such a good guy. He was such a good guy. It was one of those fun relationships where in the military, I was such an anomaly working for the submarine force that if I didn't use humor, that humor lifted an awful lot of really bad situations for me. For instance, I had a boss who was going through a really bad divorce. I don't know what it was about me. He would beat his fist on the desk at the morning meeting and say a very bad word, "You're just like my ex-wife." And everyone is frozen in the room. And I said, I don't know about you, but I know I would have loved her. And he didn't laugh, but the whole room broke up, and it lifted that situation, and it stopped that feeling of being so dire in that moment.
Well, yeah,
because I was in the moment, and that takes us to this concept of what does it mean to be in the moment, and it's thinking really fast.
Because sometimes being in the moment
really
is
fast.
Thinking on your feet. But sometimes it's also the ability to stop and appreciate what is happening around you. Maybe it's putting your phone down and spending time with, a family, friend, coworker,
blowing bubbles
kid.
with your kids or your grandkids.
Right. All kinds of things. And being in the moment, it separates us. It offers us a form of detached compassion for a dire situation that we may be going through.
When my brother was alive, he
was a funny man.
Good God, he was funny. A lot of the pictures at his memorial, people are laughing so hard you can see tears coming down their faces. He was so funny. He would speak fake Russian, and he was speaking to a Russian man, and he just made up all these words. And he said, "You speak of the gibberish, but it's good gibberish. It's really good gibberish. And all of our big meals, people would talk about the memories they had of him, and their faces would just ache because they laughed so hard.
I think that, when he was alive and the humor he would bring gave memories to the family. And once he's passed away, that ripple effect still keeps coming out because now it's being discussed.
Well, a lot of these big dinners for anywhere from 15 to 20 were at Thanksgiving. And we know that sometimes people have family issues at Thanksgiving. But I mean, people accepted our Thanksgiving invitations because there were no family issues. The food was astounding. And you always knew if Pierre was present, you were going to leave with a memory of enormous laughter, all of these funny things, or what was going on in Hollywood that was completely funny and crazy, because that wasn't our world, but that was his world. He was a contract negotiator for Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, whatever the rest of it is. So it's being in that moment and remembering that with so much fun and so much joy, because if you look at the end of your life, it's what did you remember that made you the happiest?
It is. And those memories that of Pierre and the laughter echo out on and on and on. And friendships and family is really what this life is all about. And we talked about the Urantia book, Urantia. They had a quote recently. It says that friendship enhances the joys and glorifies the triumphs of life. Love and intimate human associations tend to rob suffering of its sorrow and hardship of much of its bitterness. The presence of a friend enhances all beauty and exalts every goodness.
And on that note, I want to also say one of the fun things that Laura and I do, or we go to rock and gem shows.
We do. That's a lot of fun.
Much
to our husband's horror.
Oh, one of my kids said, "No more rocks." Oh my God, please. We have both of us have thousands of stones, but to walk through the stones and listen to their chatters, is a great. And then we talk about it and we laugh, or finding that place of fun when you're doing something you can't believe. You're in Monument Valley and it's snowing.
Oh, that was such a cool trip.
That was a cool trip. Yeah. And fun isn't always laughter. It's just that moment and you're driving through and the snow is coming down and it's peaceful and it's quiet. And it makes you have this astounding memory of these monuments. And there's not a lot of crowds. It's just those beautiful moments. So I think that
those are important to remember, because when we have fun and we have laughter, the karma of that is it shifts our body language. It shifts the endorphins, increases the endorphins. It lowers a depressive mentality. And that's the science of it. And it keeps us in a healthier place when we can kind of separate the traumas and dramas and that kind of stuff.
And the psychology of it, when you can have laughter, when you can begin to see fun in a moment, even if you've gone through some really hard times or you just can't believe things could get any worse, you can find a moment to find something that's funny or go back to a funny movie. I'm having a really hard time. I always rent The Money Pit, Tom Hanks and Shelley Long, because it was our Lake Helix house. Oh. You name it, we repaired it, fixed it, did it. Oh my gosh.
We once had a $10,000 dishwasher installed. It's another story for another show.
So the point is it lightens the moments in your life.
And, spiritually, there's karmic lessons in everything we do. And we can choose how much we want to learn or not learn. But those lessons revolve around managing the hard stuff by embracing the fun stuff and finding balance. And I think balance is key. And we're in such a world out of balance right now in many ways that
I think the Navajo word is Skorianiskatsi.
I think you're right.
World out of balance. Yeah. I actually remembered that word.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. And those are just some thoughts that we want to leave you with. And we want to thank producer Kat for popping up some photos for us. And if you're listening on the Karmic Path app or on Spotify or anywhere, if you get a chance, you can see those photos at the Karmic Path Facebook page. and on Transformation Talk Radio, and also this weekend on YouTube. So check those out. They're kind of cool photos. And we also want to thank the Oil Lounge for sponsoring us. Without them, this show wouldn't be as awesome as it is.
And they're lovely people too. Lovely, lovely people who have supported us on so many levels. And again, we're grateful to have them because they're a lot of fun.
They are a lot of fun. Yes.
They make our lives a lot of fun, and they are trying to make life better. And that's fun, and it's a happy thing.
And so check out theoillounge.com, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for spending time with us on the Karmic Path Radio Show. Listen live every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time as we explore the fascinating elements of karma and how to make those critical connections between spirituality, science, and psychology. Both of us are seasoned psychics living ordinary lives in public education and the military. Tina and I both have a deep-rooted dedication to learning how the unseen world works and to share this knowledge. Learn how to create a heightened sense of understanding and karmic awareness for greater personal balance with the Karmic Path. For more information, visit thekarmicpath.com.